In the 1930s, Warsaw was a rich and elegant city. Modern architecture, vibrant streets exuding a scent of luxury, were the trademark of the capital of Poland, a country that had just regained its independence. The Warsaw of its 1930s heyday was lost when the city was almost erased from the map of Europe at the end of the last World War. "90% of the buildings in Warsaw were blown up and razed to the ground by the Nazi German occupiers. Streets that once bustled with life were lost in the shapeless ruins.
That's a sad heritage of the Polish experience of the Second World War, where the large part of our national heritage was destroyed or dispersed. We recognize the importance of protection and helping in protection of national heritage, especially of those people who are living in the area which is cradle of our own civilization.
A strong-willed desire by the people to revive the country gave power to the goal of rebuilding Warsaw and other destroyed towns. This project became an inspiration to a whole generation of engineers, architects, and conservation experts who joined forces with archaeologists to practice the art of sharing knowledge and enthusiasm in a race against the sands of time to rescue the most precious art objects of the past on our planet. After the war, one of the first Polish missions was led by a prominent archaeologist from Warsaw.
Professor Mickiewicz was a pioneer on the Polish ground of active archaeological research in the eastern part of the Mediterranean. He wanted to be a field archaeologist, and even more, he considered that the fact that the Poland, which after the First World War just regained back its independence, needs to be present in the field of archaeology dealing with ancient civilizations.
His best-known mission was to Nubia, the border area between Sudan and Egypt. A huge archaeological survey and salvage operation was conducted in the area that later was flooded by the waters of the Nile when the Aswan High Dam was built. Professor Michalowski's mission discovered a Christian cathedral and saved its priceless frescoes. Restored by Polish conservation specialists, they are now on display in the National Museums of Khartoum and Warsaw. The paintings were found by Professor Michalowski in Faras, in North Sudan, in the ruins of the 8th century Christian cathedral. They represent religious subjects, angels, saints, the Virgin Mary, and Jesus Christ. When the frescoes arrived in Poland, they were subjected to an environment that was very different to the hot and dry conditions of the African desert. Poland, the climate is humid, and this may cause soluble salts to leach out of the frescoes. From time to time, the paintings have to undergo detailed inspection, and if necessary, a proper glue is applied to prevent detachment of the paint layer. During the last 50 years, archaeologists and conservators have unearthed cities and temples, discovered palaces, and examined ancient tombs. In Sudan, they took part in a major salvage operation when the government in Khartoum decided to build a dam at the fourth cataract of the Nile. At the Bayuda Desert in Sudan, An archaeological mission from Gdansk works on a huge concession that is half the size of Poland. After surveys from the air and on the ground, they found and saved hundreds of tombs and precious art objects. Some of them, like these engraved pictures, are dated to prehistoric times when the Sahara was not a desert, but a green savanna populated by wildlife. Professor Michalowski was also involved as a UNESCO team leader in the Swedish-led project to rescue the great Abu Simbel temples of southern Egypt that otherwise would have been inundated by the rising waters behind the Aswan High Dam. The colossal statues were cut into pieces, moved 65 meters, and then reassembled above the waters of Lake Nasser, creating one of the most spectacular tourist attractions of Egypt. "500 kilometers down the Nile, Polish researchers are working at Deir el-Bahari. The mission to restore the temple of the Egyptian queen Hatshepsut has been ongoing since the beginning of the 1960s, with great results. Using the most sophisticated laser technology, a team of archaeologists, architects and engineers have recently been able to produce a highly detailed three-dimensional map of the site, showing buildings, ramps, rooms, chambers and hallways, not only as they look now after the reconstruction, but also as they looked in antiquity. In the Hatshepsut temple complex, one can see the reconstruction of the east wall of the sanctuary of the pharaoh Thutmose III. With this digital model, we can enter the Queen Hatshepsut chapel of the royal cult. Another chapel of the solar cult is part of the digital tour. "600 kilometers north of Luxor, in Saqqara, near the capital city of Cairo, another team of Polish Egyptologists, led by Professor Karol Myslewicz, made the discovery of the extraordinary tomb of the vizier Merefnebef, who served pharaohs during the 6th dynasty period.
It was believed that the souls of the dead came through this doorway to partake of the offerings left in the chapel by the living. The family and priests of the funerary cult laid these offerings on the table in front of the false door. Naturally, the food was later consumed by the priests, but even so, the soul was believed to have been nourished as well.
Researchers from Poland were also present for half a century in the Fertile Crescent of the Levant, located in Lebanon and Syria.
Solidness of the Polish archaeologists and their professionalism in doing what they do with full engagement, I would say, especially in two fields, in the Christian archaeology and in conservation.
In the ancient city of Palmyra, teams led by Professor Michalowski and Professor Michał Gawolowski discovered and preserved stone statues and mosaics. Their three-dimensional reconstruction of the Temple of Alat added priceless information to the picture of beauty and splendor of this ancient merchant city located in the oasis on the desert crossroads. But the excavations in Syria were instantly ended when the war broke out. Just days after the battle ended in Palmyra, The first Polish archaeological team was sent in to evaluate the level of destruction. Among the first scientists to arrive, they found that Palmyra had been ravaged by the conflict. They began their mission by shifting the rubble in the completely destroyed museum. In the improvised field lab, they saved dozens of priceless statues by gluing broken pieces together and then finding a proper storage facility for the newly restored ancient artifacts. The important statue of the lion with antelope, once guarding the Temple of Alat, smashed into pieces by explosives, was carefully restored by the team. The lion was fully reconstructed with the aid of archaeological drawings in distant Warsaw, the capital of Poland. When exhibited there, the statue brought attention to the immense complexity of rebuilding Palmyra's heritage. Exhibition was also a tribute to the late Professor Khaled al-Assad, longtime Palmyra director and friend of the Poles, who after refusing to leave the site was decapitated by the terrorists inside the walls of the ancient city. The next challenge to face Polish experts was in Cambodia. Angkor, the famous complex of ancient temples located in the heart of the Cambodian jungle, needed an immediate intervention in the late 90s. The country was in a state of collapse after the Civil War, when about 1 million people were killed by the Khmer Rouge regime. Famous sites on the UNESCO list were in peril. The answer to the call for help with conservation and excavation has always been a trademark of Polish scientists. Polish archaeologists and conservators came to Cambodia right after the bloody war of 1979. That was a very hard time to come to Cambodia. Fields of landmines existed in the jungle, and Khmer Rouge partisans were still active in some places. But Polish scientists were not afraid to come to this war-torn country and provide help. In Angkor, Polish experts worked on two of the most prominent and most widely known temples, Angkor Wat and Bayon. Just across the border in Vietnam, Polish architect and conservator Kazimierz Kawacki saved the ancient city complex of Hoi An, one of the most important ancient ports on the South China Sea. His efforts helped preserve the unique layout of the city with its houses and temples. He restored it in a safe and responsible way, creating one of the largest tourist attractions in Indochina. In South America, we focus our efforts in 4 countries: Peru, Bolivia, Chile, and Ecuador. In the middle of the 19th century, Poles began taking part in the research and salvage of monuments of the New World. Artur Poznański, a professional engineer who practiced archaeology with his group in their free time, significantly helped to protect the site at Tiwanaku in Bolivia, which today is on the UNESCO World Heritage List. Our teams of archaeologists and conservators nowadays work in South America at several sites from this list. For example, we do extensive work in Samaipata in Bolivia. Polish scientists are also present in El Sagrario in Quito in Ecuador, the site of the first UNESCO project in South America. Also very important is our work in Cusco in Peru. At the ancient capital city of the Inca Empire, we do research in the monastery of Santo Domingo Coricancha. Our teams also work with Peruvian colleagues at the well-known site of Machu Picchu. A few years ago, we began a new direction of archaeological activity in South America, in Easter Island. We combine caving and exploration with classical archaeology at this Chilean Pacific island, designated as a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Interdisciplinary research and matching archaeology with conservation is a trademark of Polish teams. Such work has been done today in Coricancha in Cusco. Researchers have carried out detailed laser scanning and digital modeling. The monastery is also home to the priceless paintings of Diego Quispe Tito. As a result of painstaking conservation work on two of his paintings by Anna Dorentowicz-Jarzeska, she was able to reveal secrets of the artist's painting techniques. The laser scanning technique successfully used at Coricancha were also applied at Machu Picchu, where Polish scientists were providing help to Peruvian experts. Distilled from millions of laser measurement points, researchers created the model that lets them take an incredible virtual tour around the site. One of the greatest successes of Polish archaeologists in Peru has been the recent discovery of the first ever unlooted royal tomb belonging to the pre-Columbian and pre-Inca dynasty of the Wari rulers. The expedition, led by Dr. Miloš Gertz, found more than 60 intact skeletons of queens and members of the royal court. This provided experts with an amazing picture of the cult of the dead in this still little-known civilization. Precise 3D scanning of the site revealed mysteries of ancient architecture and urban planning. 3D laser scanners measure the horizontal and vertical angles of the laser and the speed with which the reflected beam comes back to the sensor. With this data, one may draw the entire map of the site. The priceless artifacts recovered from the royal tomb were shown at the Museum of Arts in the capital city of Lima. Golden earrings, silver tableware, pottery, quipus and fabrics gave the public for the first time a view into the beauty, complexity and power of the Wari civilization. The experience that Polish archaeologists and conservators gained while working all over the world helped them to protect their own national heritage, from preserving Royal Wawel Castle in Krakow to cleaning nearby 16th century King Sigismunda's chapel with powerful lasers. In Wieliczka, the historic salt mine near Krakow, which houses a gallery of salt sculptures made of crystals dating from the Middle Ages, the priority was to salvage the site from flood and rising air humidity. In addition, precise 3D documentation was carried out, helping to protect and preserve this unique UNESCO site for future generations. The most recent challenge involves a very special artifact located in the Church of the Virgin Mary in the main city square of the old town of Krakow. A 3 stories high medieval wooden altar was sculpted by Wit Storz, looted by the Nazis during World War II and meticulously put back in place in the 1950s. Now, sculpture by sculpture, the altar is being disassembled and cleaned with chemicals to remove centuries-thick dust. On many of the statues, it's necessary to use lasers to get rid of the patina that had gradually coated the artwork over the past 5 centuries. The conservation of Krakow's masterpiece will take several years. When complete, it will preserve for centuries to come one of the main attractions of the cultural capital of Poland.